So let's talk about 20 years of LCDAs in Lagos. And I'm joined in the studio by someone who should know. He's Right Honorable Waheed Jokotola Belumi. He's the first speaker of the 5th Lagos State House of Assembly between 2003 and 2005. Right Honorable, thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me.
A very interesting development we're following here. 37 LCDAs created from the 20 local government areas in Lagos after a referendum was conducted and approval endorsement gotten by the House of Assembly, right?
Yeah.
You were Speaker of the House that year. Talk to us about what happened then and what you think informed that unprecedented decision.
Well, creation exercise of the LCDAs and 37 LCDAs from the existing 20. Initially, the process was started by the Mamora administration as a speaker, and then we proceeded too. And in saying that, that administration kick-started the creation exercise, and all the processes for the creation as prescribed in section 8, 3, and 5 of, and subsequently 6 of the Constitution were completely integrated. All the processes from request for creation, approval, referendum, proposals, approval of the referendum itself, by the State House of Assembly, were completely integrated. All those processes was prescribed in Section 8.3, were completely integrated. And then it says in Section 8.5, that the National Assembly shall make consequential provisions in terms of, in respect of the listing of the names in the first schedule of the Constitution. It now imposes an obligation on the state seeking to create an obligation to make returns to the National Assembly, to enable the National Assembly to make those consequential provisions. Now, recall that I said to you that all the processes as prescribed by Section 8.3 were completely integrated by the state government. But the National Assembly has failed, refused, and neglected to activate and actualize or discharge the obligation imposed upon it by Section 8.5. They have failed and refused to make those constitutional provisions.
So it's not even the duty of the president as we know it, because some have blamed, for instance, the previous president of not pushing through in this regard.
There's a reason for it. To answer your question, it's not part of their business, but you will find that they failed and refused to do it. The president didn't dabble into it because, one, if it comes from a state that is not a beneficiary of the creation exercise, are you with me? Let me tell you something, Nifemi. We were too busy crisscrossing Apovilla, trying to lobby members of the National Assembly to get them to effectuate the obligation imposed upon them by Section 8.5 of the Constitution. That requires it. And the language of that section is that the National Assembly they're under obligation to do that, make consequential provisions. And the president wouldn't dabble into it because it's not his purview. Are you with me? But we were busy in Lagos State. Let me speak about ourselves now. We created one, Ebonyi created, Abia created. We were trying to get them to do that which the Constitution required them to do. But they failed to do it because, one, it didn't benefit. If you go to an assembly, a senator, or a House of Reps representative from Kano State or from Jigawa State, they didn't create one, so they would not be interested in doing your bidding. It's an obligation. I said, look, the Constitution requires you to do that, so we have to do that individually to get at least a good number of people, of members of the National Assembly, to buy into that idea. But can you blame them, really? You can't blame them because they're not interested because the states didn't.
I get your point. The number of states that have done this are coming up. Particularly in the Southwest.
Okay.
We probably will see. We'll talk more about the national implication shortly. But let's get back to Lagos because it became very contentious when this happened in 2003. I think it was in 2003. It eventually gets to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And there was this challenge between the former president there and the Lagos State governor. What do you think happened there?
What do I think happened, or what do I know that happened?
Oh, exactly. What do you know happened?
There's so many issues there, but they're very subtle things. Now, it's lack of political will. We needed to deepen our politics at the time in Lagos State, which we did. But the federal government, they had their thoughts. And it was a case of, oh no, you can't have it all your way. You don't do things my way, then I'm going to meet you somewhere down the road, make sure that I put stumbling blocks in your way to make sure that you don't succeed. That's all there is, not to put to find a point on it. And we did strive, even personally. I took some of my colleagues with me at the time, to go and meet with the president, president.
You did?
Oh, yeah. We took Rotimi Amechi, last minister for transportation. He was speaker then of the Rivers House Assembly. I took Titi Oseni, Ogun State. I took Ogoshi, Nasarawa State. I took Victor Labinto of Ondo State. I took, who else? About 6 of us to accompany me. Are you with me? To go and beg the president to actually release the funds.
What was his position at that
His
time?
position was like, hey, you were on Channels TV the previous day. I was on Channels TV the previous day. Trying to analyze his position, indicate that we're due for it to create one, and we created one. All the processes were indicated. And we thought, you're hanging on to these funds, let me go and beg him. My governor at the time, God bless him wherever he is now, he's the president of the country now, said, Joko, well, don't go to him. And I took the risk and I went to him, taking 6 of my friends at the time for support and solidarity. You know what he said? He said, when you people were creating the local government, I was waiting for you. I knew you'll come for this money. And he said some other things, which are unprintable, which I should say on national TV. But it was a case of the personalized and official issue, a constitutional matter. They personalize it. When I say there, at the federal government level. And that always happens between the federal and the state, because we don't run a truly federal state, federal system. Federalism should involve each state, each component units, on their own. But they see it as a personal fiefdom. And this is what I often complain about the neo-patrimonial politics that we play in this country. The idea that, look, I'm your godfather. Or I'm the president here, and for that reason, shove it down your throat, whatever it is that I want that you have to do.
So you were not able to convince him?
No, we couldn't. You know the person we're talking about.
Obviously.
It's unchangeable condition.
Indeed.
Masculine in thoughts and feelings and, devoid of sentiments.
And the federal government went ahead to even withhold funds.
Yeah, and then the case went to the Supreme Court.
How did Lagos survive that period of time? Because the funds weren't, given back until after that administration.
Give it to Ashaju and Pastor Akinwumi Ambode, who was then Accountant General, and maybe Femi Pedro, and several other crises, and even Jide Sanwo-Olu, who came up with a 10-point agenda, how to be able to manage, ourselves, It was called financial engineering. That's what Ashaju called it. And God bless him. God bless him. He had to put all resources together, cut down on waste and losses, and plug all the loopholes, and that's how we did it. It is called financial engineering. It's bringing the same to bear at the national level now as we speak. And you see fireworks, So that's how we survived it. Put simply.
He's president now. We'll talk shortly about whether he can, influence the National Assembly to do the needful. But let's talk about how you think the LCDAs have really fared in bringing real and actionable development closer to the people. That's why they were created in the first place.
Let me start this way. Our constitution share this tradition of free administration. And free administration is predicated upon the principle of subsidiary principle. Now, this principle states that that government responsibilities and functions should be undertaken at the local level, where they have the capacity to relate, and where they are the best level of government, to take care of it, because they're closer to the people, and they give them the resources and the resources and the authority to be able to do that. Now, to perform it effectively, and in order for them to perform it, they are not given general competencies as of right, as part of the inalienable rights, inalienable part of their autonomy. They are given that right, and that right, I must tell you, is not a creation of the statute. It is a creation of the Constitution. So it is guaranteed by that. Yes. Now, that autonomy is now compromised. Why is it compromised? There's so many other issues, but we'll come to that, But to get back to your question, they are the ones recognized to be the closest to the community to be able to generate all and any services that will impact positively upon their constituents. That right, at the risk of repeating myself, is guaranteed not by statutes, but by the Constitution. So, if for any reason for over 20 years you don't feel, like you said, in the course of this, that the responsibility, the existence in 20 years, the opinions are divided over it, then it's for a reason. And it's for these reasons that those rights that were guaranteed, not by statute but by constitution, were not easily granted them, as to leave them enough room to perform the functions prescribed for them by the constitution. Those functions of establishment, maintenance, and generation of slaughter slabs and advertisements and radio and TV and blah, blah, blah. Those were traditional functions prescribed in the Constitution for the local governments. But you find that most state governments, have turned the local governments into mere administrative. And the reason for that is the Constitution recognizes a three-tier system. We like to think so, but it's not so in real terms. You find the Constitution created a chapter for the executive. It's created a chapter for the judiciary. It now failed to create a chapter for the local government. It now substitutes the life and times of the local government underneath the purview of the state government. So that gives them the leverage to tinker with them whimsically. So, and by the time the matter got to the Supreme Court, if I may come back to your question, the Supreme Court said that those local governments were properly created, but that they are inchoate. That's the language of the Constitution, of that judgment of the Supreme Court. Inchoate in the sense that they were not, the creation exercise was not completed. We said no. But okay, even at that, release the funds. They failed too. The reason the Supreme Court said that was the provisions, the obligations required by the National Assembly to be undertaken by the National Assembly, listing them in Part 1, Schedule 3 and 4 of the Constitution, to make consequential provisions. That is what they have failed and refused to do. To make them do that work, the state government went further to fulfill its own obligations under Section 8, Subsection 6, which requires it to make returns to the National Assembly to enable the National Assembly to make those consequential provisions. That hasn't happened. Now, how will the president handle it now that he is the president? Your question.
So if local government areas themselves do not have autonomy, you can tell that local councils are mere appendages of the state government. So can we blame state governors for the level of failure, or otherwise, of these councils?
Failure? I wouldn't tag along with you in
because the challenges, if you ask people, they talk about poor leadership, they talk about inadequate funding, misappropriation of funds, even at that level.
A number of factors militate against the good performance of the local governments. Corruption is number one. I agree with you. Number two, dearth of personnel, lack of infrastructures. As three. Then the contention about the status of a local government. We've spoken about that, yes. Maybe not to a great length. But because there's a loophole in the Constitution, that is the loophole that the governors are exploiting. Now, if they have to succeed to meet the expectations of the people, like you're expecting, all those things must be put in place. But you will find that now, in the past 20 years to now, you find that the local governments that exist in Lagos and the LCDAs, they are pulling their weight. There's so much pressure on them by way of to build infrastructures because the rot had set in so deep for so long. So all that the state governments are doing, not in very clear terms, is to exploit the position in the Constitution. If the Constitution hadn't fallen shy of creating a chapter to make it a separate tier, and that's what makes people think, that the Constitution recognizes a three-tier system. No, it only prepared a ground for the local government to be a third tier of government. It didn't create a third tier of government until such time as that is done. Perish the thought about autonomy. Perish the thought about performing optimally to your expectations. Those are the issues there. Those contentions of its status as a tier of government are the ones militating really against the good governance at that level.
What about the quality of personnel who get elected into these councils?
It goes through the mill. The choice of personnel goes through the mill. I'm a part of it, I can tell you confidently. And they're thoroughly screened. And, but individual and personal foibles, interests and vested interests do come in the choices that emerge at the end of the day. But I can assure you, without any reservations, with such confidence, you know, that they go through a rigorous exercise at the party level. I was once a chairman of a screening exercise of the party to screen prospective aspirants, you know, aspiring to become council chairman. And I can tell you, you know, off the top of my head, that it was rigorous exercise. There's so many people that wants to go in there. You have to go through an exercise clinically and scientifically, looking at the details, you know, and making sure that the right persons, you know, emerge at the end of the day. And that's what, but we cannot be entirely perfect about it, or be sure that what we're churning out there, you know, as council functionaries, the chairman, are top notch. You can be 100% sure. But we do try our best, and that's what we did.
Because I have had conversation with some of them, maybe not in Lagos, no, maybe not exclusively in Lagos, but to an extent, you're disappointed that they don't mirror the kind of quality of personnel we see, for instance, at the state level. And you question, I mean, is it a function of the parties that are not doing the due diligence that you claim the party has done? But then, you know, sometimes when you see the personnel, you ask some critical questions. But another big issue here is transparency. You know, as nothing, almost nothing is known about funds that are accrued to them, and you know what they are used for. Like other councils across the country, the LCDA budgets, we understand, are treated as secret documents, and they are not open to scrutiny. In Lagos State, I understand that local councils also signed the what do they call it now, International Public Sector Accounting Standards, and that, you know, gives them, that mandates them to make these things public. What are your thoughts about this?
To make them public, you know, let me start this way. There's no benchmark for measuring the standards and the performance of the local governments. That is what is lacking. But even at that, it is not to say that there aren't enough legislation on the statute book existing as we speak that will ensure accountability and transparency and all that, you know. But it's a lack of political will. And we needed to deepen our politics to be able to contrive the situation which you are envisaging. You know, it's by no means sacrosanct, you know, but there's no benchmark. And if there's a benchmark, you know, the existing laws and regulations are enough. Some of them, since sitting in the statute book and the local government administration law, that ensures that position. There's a lack of political will and the death of politics and the wherewithal to make it happen, to implement those templates. That is lacking. That's a short answer for you. You're immediately off the top of my head. But if you're looking for a comprehensive detail about, say, the accounting standards, the stipulations or the requirements of the accounting standards organization, which Nigeria is a signatory to, you're on a sticky wicket.
Absolutely.
You're on a sticky wicket.
So let's talk about what you think governors have to lose, you know, for not supporting autonomy for local government areas.
Oh, so many things. Some personal, some official. Let's not be too fine about it. If the Constitution fails to grant them the autonomy which they require, some people erroneously think that the Constitution has granted them. No, it's not right. All the Constitution did is to prepare the ground for local government as a tier of government to be given autonomy. And so long as that loophole exists, state governments will always be, local governments will always be at the mercy of the state government. So the recommendations are, you know, that you go back, one, to the reforms. When we come to that, we'll do that. And those reforms in the past actually suggested, made one or two suggestions, like making local governments, the creation and the performance and the organization and the structure to be a residual matter.
How do you mean?
Residual in the sense that it is residual to both federal and government, and federal government, the state government and the federal government, exclusive from the authority and the whimsical interference of the federal government or the state government, to be on their own. So it has to be a residual matter for in the Constitution. If it is residual, then it becomes easier for the Constitution to make it a third tier of government. And once that happens, they gain their autonomy, and all these issues that we're peddling, that we're complaining about, wouldn't happen.
And these are all matters before the National Assembly.
It has been before the National Assembly since donkey years. Since I've been having hot dinners.
So if your previous analysis about the interest of the North and the other parts of the country and how vested they are, do you think this can fly under this administration?
It still wouldn't fly. And I don't want to be too pessimistic here and be too negative, in the sense that not all the states in the Federation, take out the ones that have created local governments already and now converted them to the local council development areas. They have not had the opportunity nor the wherewithal to create local government. Maybe they don't need it. Until such time I say, okay, everybody go and create local governments, like Babangida Abacha did in the past. It is only then that will pick interest in it. We tried in Lagos State. My governor tried, the current president, he tried. We tried our best at the level of Conference of Speakers. We tried our best individually as a state House of Assembly to lobby the National Assembly. They won't touch you with the power of vote because their interest is not there. The states have not created. So if you don't belong in a Ebonyi State or Ogun State or Lagos State that have created, they don't feel too impelled to exert themselves unduly in doing those things that only marginally affects their welfare. And that's what is going on. So if it doesn't affect my welfare, why should I bother? So it's a natural thing, and it comes to them in a way that's natural. They can't stop being human, so we can't blame them too much. The current president appreciates that, knows that position, but we never know. We keep our fingers crossed and hope it doesn't get stiff in the process.
So what's the implication of not having this national recognition? Because for the southwestern states who have followed suit, it's still the same money they are sharing, right? And then when you are not even sure that these development areas are working at maximum capacity, how much impact are they, how much value do you think they are bringing under this condition?
How much value the CDA, LCDAs are bringing to the They are doing the best. Let me take it from here, from the sharing of funds. Your section 162 of the Constitution necessarily requires the National Assembly to distribute all funds that stand to the credit of the state belonging to local governments to the states. Watch the language. Shall prescribe, to distribute. In section 162.8, it says, all funds that stand to the credit of local governments shall, to allocate is the first one, to distribute to the local governments in a manner prescribed by the State House of Assembly. When they allocate to the state distributes in a manner prescribed by the State House of Assembly. They distribute to the requisite number of local governments in their local governments, not in the one created by the federal government. That becomes the problem. So if you're saying 20 local governments, okay, Lagos State is one of them. The Constitution had said distribute to the state by the National Assembly, by the House of Assembly, shall distribute, or prescribe the manner to distribute to the requisite local government. Now tell me, what has that got to do with the federal government? So they can distribute, if they have 20 LCDAs or they want to distribute into 20, give us money for 20 in the respect of 20, which is one for Lagos State, and then we can distribute in the number of places that we have local governments in. That's what's going on. But development-wise, there have been so many issues, at the risk of repeating ourselves, militating against the optimal performance of those LCDAs, and the reasons are not far-fetched. But without preempting you, I hope we'll still get to the issues of reforms and stuff. Then we can take it from there.
Indeed. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we're going to expand this conversation and also open the phone lines for your contribution on this matter. Stay with us, everyone.
Politics is defined as getting what, where, when, and how. But in the mix, many things come to play to shape the political fortune of any country.
Honorable Minister, this is how you misinform the public.
From the political actors to the electorate, campaign to voting, from debates to policy decisions, big events happen to engage us in constant conversation.
That's what we're looking for. Not some people who are talking about ethnicity. No.
Who is on your mind?
Don't worry.
Join me every day on Politics Tonight, where we dissect issues that shape our political destiny. Politics Tonight, weekdays on TVC News.
The TVC News at 7 and the TVC News at 10 are not like any other news broadcast.
It's the big news hour, the hour for the big breaking stories.
We've got some of the best reporters on the field,
Taking you through as it happened.
it's fast-paced, hard-hitting,
With investigations that matter.
bringing in news that affects your life.
With sport, entertainment, and business news, so you don't miss a thing.
Experience resourceful coverage with depth.
Every night. Thanks for joining us again on the program. It's been 20 years of creation of local council development areas in Lagos, and we're looking at local government administration in Nigeria and what has to be done differently. Right Honorable Waheed Joko Tolak-Balumi, first Speaker of the 5th House of Assembly in Lagos, is my guest. Thank you so much for staying the course on the program. Now let's talk about this local government reforms that you are quite interested about, but I want to pick up on what we've not been able to actualize. In Nigeria, as we speak, they say 313 out of 774 local councils are still run by sole administrators or caretaker committees. And that's where it all begins from. Every local government election you see across the country, most times, maybe except in 1 or 2 states, it's the ruling party at the state center that clears everything. I think it was Kaduna that tried electronic voting and had some, other parties win a few years ago. The implication of that also is that there are allegations that the entirety of what's happening there are party issues, that party nominations, they are not really open up to the entirety of the state. What do you think have been done differently, as we explore the reforms that you talked about?
Well, you need a massive overhaul of the Constitution along the lines set out by the Constitution Drafting Committee during Mantu's Senate leadership or Vice Senate, Deputy Senate leadership. And that went a long way, to address the issues, that you're talking about.
Hold that thought for a minute, Right Honorable. Let's get Segun Olulade's thought. He's called in from Ikeja. Good morning, Segun.
Yeah, good morning, and compliment of the season to Mr. Speaker, sir. I want to, first of all, use this opportunity to congratulate you and other members of the House then and make it a reality for Lagosians to have the LCDAs in Lagos, and also our President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for making it happen today, because we can see the level of development that is all over the state today. If not for the creation of those LCDAs today, I don't think any of these development we are talking about. Just recently, we just see an LCDA in Lagos at Boyikeju giving us an housing scheme in Lagos. In that LCDA, that shows the development that we have witnessed in Lagos State. Another thing is about the constitution that you are referring to, sir. I want to look at the area of federalism. The third tier you are referring to is local government part of the third tier of federalism? If not, because I think that was the basis of that constitutional issue, because I expect that the breach that we have there is that they have to go and get an approval at the National Assembly. I think that shouldn't have been. It should be between the state houses of assembly to create and give them life to operate, while they also have their independence. I think what is important is that the local government should have their independence, while we also ensure that the local governments are operating under the state and can be created by the state. Instead of taking it to the National Assembly, I think that is where the whole matter for me is the issue. Thank you and compliment.
Thank you, Honorable Olulade. Well,
Can I address
that's someone from your camp.
He's my man, actually.
He's a former lawmaker himself.
He's my man from my constituency,
Yes.
actually. You know, he's stated brilliantly. You know, but there's a bit of a confusion here and there. The issue of autonomy stands on its own. The issue of creation is another issue entirely. But I take his point, and this is the point that I've always made, to the effect that if you're going to create local governments, make it a purely state affair, such that you don't have to revert to the federal government to complete the creation exercise. Now, he's referring to, you know, to Section 8, subsection 5 of the Constitution, at the risk of repeating myself, which stipulates that the National Assembly shall make consequential provisions to perfect, to list only in the first schedule of the Constitution. That's number one. He's suggesting that you should make it purely a state affair. And that's like saying, take out Section 8, subsection 8.6, or Section 8, subsection 8.5, that after you've perfected all the requirements as prescribed for the creation exercise in Section 8.3, from request to approval, to referendum, to proposal, to making returns in Section 8, subsection 6, you don't now have to go back to the National Assembly. The creation exercise, once integrated, completely integrated, vertically, horizontally, you're good to go. The creation exercise is completed, such that you don't have to go back to the National Assembly for any perfection, even though the Constitution didn't use the language perfect. It's just by a bill, create an environment to list the newly created local government. So his suggestion on a final note is that take out that provision. The moment you take out that provision, if we have the political will to remove that provision, that is to say Section 8, subsection 5, which requires the National Assembly to make those consequential provisions, then we're good to go. It should be a purely state affair. So I agree with him there. On the issue of autonomy,
yes.
We seem to run erroneously and try to get away with the impression that the Constitution recognizes, you know, a three-tier system. No, it didn't. It created a chapter for the executive, created a chapter for the judiciary, I mean for the state, and failed to create a chapter for the local government. And because it talks about local government in the Constitution, people now begin to think that it is a tier of government. It is not yet. All the Constitution succeeded in doing so far is to create an atmosphere, to prepare the ground that, look, you need to create, maybe in the course of time and circumstances, we will create a tier for the local. It is only then when that happens. If you recall, I'd said in the course of my representation here that until such time as that tier is created, you will always continue to have the contention about the status of local government and its autonomy.
Dayo has called in from Isheri North. Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, please turn down the volume of your TV. Go ahead with your contribution.
Okay. Yeah. I have listened to what the former speaker talking about when he says for federal system, you have the state, you have federal, state, and local government. I disagree. Local government has no thing to do with federation. It is the states that are federating units to form the federation. That is one. Two, Nigeria is usually a confused country. Now, if local government is supposed to be legislated upon by states, why should you be talking about federal government sending money to local government? Why? So we have found it difficult to have a good local government system in this country because you have made local government to be neither state appendage nor federal appendage. The best thing is remove local government from having direct payment from the federal. Let states create local government.
The moment you allow that, then if the money that is coming to state is purely for state, the state will now decide whether you have, according to population, 250,000 for local government. Then the state can now say, I need only 50 local governments. Then from there, you will now disburse money according to the regulation that is there in the Constitution.
All right.
But when you allow federal government to put money direct to state, and then you now say the money will now go to, what do you call it now? Joint account. Confusion everywhere. It doesn't make sense.
Thank you, Daya, for your contribution. Yes, I'm confused too.
Yeah, you see, there's so much confusion in that.
Yes.
But there's nowhere in the statute book, neither the statute book nor the Constitution, where it says go pay directly to the local government. I'll direct him to go back to section 162, 5 of the Constitution. It says the federal government, it says that all sums standing to the credit of local government shall be distributed to the states in a manner prescribed by the National Assembly. It now goes on in section 162 subsection 8 to say that all sums that stand to the credit of local governments, the states shall the state government shall distribute to the respective local governments in a manner prescribed by the State House of Assembly. One is to allocate, the job of the federal government is to allocate to the states funds due for their respective local governments. It now prescribes, now says that at section 1628 that the state government, through its own State of Assembly, shall distribute to requisite, are you with me? But the current demand for funds to come directly from the federal government to the state, I agree with it, it shouldn't be so. It's contradiction in terms. But what is causing that is that there is no tier of government at the third level. We erroneously think, and I don't know how people get away with it, that this constitution which we run now identifies and creates three-tier system. No, it's a two-tier system.
Was this part of the process of constitutional review we've seen in the past years?
Yes, it may. Well, it's a part of that review.
Yes.
It was. Since 1976, let me take it from there, the reforms. In 1984-85, there was Dasuki-led review. Odimelo, that's two. There was a technical committee led by the Sandan Dayako in 2003. Odimelo, that's about 4 reviews. Now tell me, they have not seen the light of day. Since 1976, Dasuki-led review, the reform of national government, 1984-85, 2003, Sandan Dayako-led technical committee. The should go back and read the recommendations made by those committees. And then we won't have this confusion. But we lack the political wherewithal. Once it is done, you know... I'm
wondering how you recommend that, you know, we maneuver this system that has refused to allow the local government autonomy over the years. But let's take Adekunle's call from Lokoja. Good morning, Adekunle. Adekunle, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
I'm not connected to the studio, right?
Yes, you are. Go ahead, Mr. Adekunle.
Yes?
All right, we'll have to return to that call if it's not ready.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. You have just a minute. Go ahead, Mr. Adekunle.
Yeah, the first caller, and I'm listening to your conversation on the TV right now.
Okay.
Hello?
Well, with you, please go ahead. Oh, I think we lost that. When you're calling in, try to turn down the volume of your TV so we can have a direct conversation via telephone. So what do you think have been done differently? Because you seem to say that we have a rich history of try and error in this regard. Governors have frustrated the process, even with the latest constitutional review. How do local governments get the autonomy, you know, under these circumstances?
How do they get it?
Yes.
It's very simple. Create a federal of
Who does this creation?
National Assembly?
Because we understand that you also have to carry the houses of assembly along.
You're looking for two-thirds there?
For two-thirds. And as long as these houses of assembly are under the governors, you probably wouldn't get it.
You probably wouldn't get it. From here to high heavens, you may not get it. That is the truth of the matter. But if you create an avenue for all the state governments to create, maybe by law, by fair, say, okay, so hey, all of you, go create local governments. We'll take it from there. You see how they pick up an interest in the matter. Without that, we can't go too far.
So
create a tier for the state for the local government.
Okay.
And then you can begin to get away with the idea that the Constitution has created.
The implication of that also, implication of that also is, when you give states liberty to create as many local government areas.
You have to tailor that against your resources.
Yes, because, but eventually, when they get autonomy, the resources still come down from the federal government, isn't it?
Well, it does, because we don't run it through federalism, like the previous caller said.
Exactly.
We don't run. You see, the problem with our federalism is, and this is where all the problems emanate, is that our problems, our own federalism emerged from inside outwards. It's not if a unit of federating states coming together to form a federation. In our own case, it is units finding out to become, it makes absolutely no sense. And that is the bane of our problems. So create one tier of system, one tier. Go back to those reviews and the recommendations made by those reviews, and then you begin to see fireworks. You can then begin to see progress. Like Honorable Ulade has said, that local council, I said to support him, that now is the time that you're beginning to see evidence and sprinkles of development at the local government level. Because one, the state deepened its politics, they had a template by which for them to run, and they have the resources to run it. The wherewithal, the political authority, the authority is what is lacking at that level of the Constitution. But it's good to continue to make the point and emphasize, that those rights, inalienable part of the autonomy, is a creation. It is defined not by statute but by the Constitution. So in essence, you have to go back to the Constitution to get anything done.
And then you have to find a way to bypass the governors.
They'll fall in line. So it will be a constitutional matter.
Indeed. Adekunle has called back. Please go ahead with the contribution, Adekunle.
Yeah.
Adekunle, are you there?
I'm there.
All right, please go ahead with the contribution.
Yeah. Sorry for the break in transmission. I was trying to say about yes, I'm here. Yeah, I had a master's in public policy and administration, 2006, and in my thesis,
so the challenge, Adekunle, is that your TV is on, and there's a delay between what we say in the studio and what you hear on your television. So I'm hoping that you hear this later. The next time you call in, your TV has to be completely, turned down, else we're not going to be able to have that conversation. Very interesting conversation, Right Honorable. And you're saying that there's a way to achieve all of these, through reviewing the Constitution. But do you think that there is a political expectation, especially for people in the Southwest, for Mr. President to achieve this in a lifetime of his administration?
That expectation is so huge and enormous. Huge and enormous. And we're dealing with, I'm confident in answering your question and in being able to say without reservations that those expectations will be met. A good part of it will be met because of the person we're dealing with. And he had also succeeded. He'd done it in the past, we know his track records. And he's also surrounded himself at that level with competent hands, the people who knows what they're doing, people who can tell their left hand from their right hand, people who don't speak from both sides of their mouth, people who are sincere, sincere about what they say and what they do. So for those reasons and those considerations, I expect that those expectations will be met all in good time.
So are we assuming that once local governments get their autonomy, automatically the issue of poor leadership, misappropriation of funds as we hear them, are going to be fixed?
Can you get that completely obliterated? No, we'll be playing the proverbial ostrich that buries our head under the sun, thinking that the rest of the world is okay. No, the rest of the world is not okay. It's not. You see, to get to that level, there has to be a massive change in orientation. I don't know what the National Orientation Agency is doing. They're pulling their boots up, pulling themselves by the strap boots. They're doing enough already, but maybe that enough is not enough. They need to do more to change our orientation about attitude to governance to issues that relates to almost everybody.
Please hold that thought.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that reorientation shortly. But Sonny has called in from the United Kingdom. Hi, Sonny. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Hi, guys. Thanks. I think I like the conversation that is going on, but my contribution is this, really. Yes, local government in Nigeria, they need the autonomy like 5-10 years ago, because there is absolutely no doubt anywhere in the world, governance, leadership should be as close to people as possible. Yeah. I know some of my own views may be extreme. I personally don't believe in Nigeria we need governance, because, to be honest with you, you ask yourself, what are our governors doing? And the local government administrators cannot do it. They have the same resources. What is big deal about building bridges? What is big deal about building roads? So, over years, of course, like you guys have said in the studio, you find out that the way our federal system evolved has been the problem, really, because it's not something that a group of people kind of entities coming together, but like I can't take the name of the panelist there. He said it clearly that look, instead of evolving from inside out, it's the other way we're having. Now, that needs to really be tackled so that governance needs as best as possible to be close to people. And that's what we need. And I have no doubt that if that happens, you have that if we're going to see good governance, we will see good governance. Because if I take example in my local government in Nigeria, if my local government chairman start misbehaving, if he doesn't want to listen, we go to the Obas. And we're going to have a lot of people who are going to put pressure on those people who are piloting their fears to make things work. So I think I will leave it at this point in time that it's a good thing that we should give autonomy to our local government. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonny, for your contribution. You were talking about the need to reorientate. And usually when we talk about orientation, almost everybody talks about the NOA. How much can that agency do, really? Is there a multi-stakeholder approach to having that change across board, not just from a particular agency?
Exactly. Well, even that agency alone, it's so structured in a way that it's massive enough to take care of issues. But do you ever see them in your locality? Do they exist in my neighborhood? The National Orientation Agency? You don't find them anywhere. The nearest impact we felt about them was the time of was a DFRI, in Babangida years. That was a precursor of the National Orientation Agency. But they don't exist in my neighborhood. Even in my state, the offices in Ikeja, is there. They're doing their best at the national level, maybe at the state level. But do you hear about them on a daily basis? Like you hear of the Punch newspaper, or the Tribune, or the Nation newspaper? That's the way it should be, to disseminate information in the ways the print and media disseminate information.
Indeed.
That is the way to change people's orientation. When you're constantly talking at them. But National Orientation Agency exists on national TV, on NTA 24. Or maybe you hear about them every now and again when they have a program, on TV Continental or Channels TV. They don't exist in the local government. In the Kosieji, I don't know where the offices are.
Let's take
They have no representation there. That is what they should do. Talk at people at that level, and then we can begin to see results about the change of orientation.
But let's take this conversation to Paris, where Austin has called in from. Hi, Austin.
Yeah, I'm okay, sir. Mr. Nifemi, I'm very grateful that you took me today because I've been calling for past 1 year.
Oh, my.
Anyway.
Wow.
Congratulations, then. Please go ahead with the contribution.
Yeah, I want to congratulate our former speaker or something for his analysis. He's a very good man, but I wonder that our president has not given him something else to do because it's very useful to the nation. That is one.
Thank you.
Number two, I want to also seize this opportunity before I talk about the LCDA because they are doing well. and it is the handiwork of God and our president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and those who work with him in those times like this, our speaker. Good. But my problem now is this. This government with our president, their communication strategy is very poor. Communication strategy is very poor. They are not analyzing things. They are not explaining things to the people. I tell you, I've been defending the president in Europe here with a lot of headache. People want to hate him. They say this and that, but what he's doing is right. But there's no explanation. Please, I want to see this medium that you tell him to communicate. His communication team, Bayo Nonuga, and all the likes. They should communicate well, educate people. Iyalewedu in Mushin does not understand what is subsidy removal. So people are just grumbling, people are crying. Please, communication, that is 2. Number 3, the problem we have in Nigeria is one man said there is confusion or something like that a while ago.
Yeah.
I want to agree with him, but is that of morality also? Because I noticed one thing, that all the people that takes position in Nigeria, they are not, they don't take it as a service to the people. Like, this LCDA that they created, it's a very good thing, very, very good thing. We have that in Paris also, in France as well, but it's not the same, it doesn't function the same way. Now, what am I driving at? If the local government chairman takes it as a duty to serve the people, you see, many of them, they just see it as an opportunity to gather money, to wear agbada, to buy good cars, to have a lot of things. And that is the problem we have. This has been on and on for many years. If everybody that is in any office says, okay, I'm going there to serve, let them serve very well. This money matter we are talking about, federal government releasing money to LCDA, constitutional is not constitutional. Okay, if the money is released, are they going to use it for the people?
All right. Mr. Austin, I can tell you've been trying to call in for a whole year. That's why you have a varied opinion. If in fact, it's lobbying you for a position already with the federal government.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Austin.
So, but we have to go now. How do you round this off in such a way that, the autonomy is feasible in a short period of time, and then we won't still be talking about this in another decade?
Deepen our politics. We need to deepen our politics. When you deepen your politics, you can relate with almost anybody in the scheme of things.
Indeed.
The system is so replete with individuals and units and organizations and institutions that when completely integrated and operating on the same page and operating the full throttle,
Indeed,
you can get results.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Right Honorable Waheed Jokotolak Pelumi, first Speaker of the Fifth House of Assembly in Lagos between 2003 and 2005. Are you planning to return to politics anytime soon?
I'm neck deep in politics. not even for an instant of time did I leave politics.
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
neck deep in it. I had to fly in this morning because of you people, to get to this.
Thank you for the audience. That's our show today, everyone. We're back tomorrow, God willing, with another exciting episode. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.
Hi guys, I am Kehinde Bankole. Come with me as I take you to the homes of some lovely DSTV customers to find out what they enjoy.